After starting out the year an impressive 5-0, the Minnesota Vikings have slipped and lost the last two games. Can they rebound at home versus the Lions? Let's talk about it. So the most disappointing game of the year against the Bears, which unfortunately they lost pretty handily. The offensive line was non-existent in that game. Brandon Fusco couldn't block anybody on the interior, and both tackles prove once again that they're nowhere near starting caliber offensive tackles in the NFL, as Clemmings and Jake Long can't seem to block anybody and hold a block so Bradford can connect. Of course, Bradford was off again, probably his worst game as a Minnesota Viking, missing a deep throw to Diggs that could have made a big difference in the game. That would have been a touchdown very early on. Diggs was making some plays. He had, I believe, 7 catches for like 70 yards. A good game for Diggs. You would expect a little bit more against inexperienced Bears defensive backs, but when the quarterback doesn't have time to get him the ball, that's about as good as you can really do. Running game, again, not there at all. Really unfortunate. You'd think at the very least we'd be able to run the ball with our offensive line, because Clemmings, Fusco, Berger, Boone, they're all known for really good run blockers, and they just can't get it done at the thing they're supposed to be good at, and really makes our passing game even more inefficient when you can't run. Then you can just pass rush, and at that point you're just leaving yourself for disaster. So offensively, another really subpar game. You could say the Eagles game, the Eagles just had good defense, but against the Bears you don't have that excuse whatsoever. We just got beat on their turf. I would say this is borderline as bad as last year versus the 49ers, almost the exact same type thing, where we go on the road in a primetime game and just can't get it done. So defensively was the worst game of the year, but I don't think it was bad as people make it up to be. We only ended up giving up 20 points. Now it is the Bears. You expect to hold them under 10 with our defense. But when you're giving them 40 yards before they get to the touchdown, that's as far as they need to go, because our offense can't move the ball at all, then you can really give them a little bit of slack. I know we did give up over 150 yards rushing to a nobody running back, which is really just unexcusable. But besides for that, our defensive backs played pretty good. I think Alshon Jeffrey could have had a few more touchdowns, which would have made it looked a lot worse. But otherwise, Xavier Rhodes played very well on the stat sheet. But like I said, he did get beat a few times, and I just don't think Alshon Jeffrey capitalized on him. Most times when he goes against number ones, they will catch those balls, and that will make it look a lot worse. So at the end of the day, if he catches those, then we give up 34 points. And then you can really say what happened to the Vikings defense. Did Zimmer slip on play calling? Did they just not go fast? I know I saw some reports that people saw Anthony Barr not go in full speed, and he's one of the studs on this defense. That just doesn't look good. Now, was he tired? Was he just not in it because of all the diversity that this teams went through and just started to get to him? Either way, not excusable for a professional athlete to go in full speed in a game like that. So now on to the Lions. New revamped Lions from recent years. No Calvin Johnson, but have instead replaced with 3, I'd say, Pro Bowl fringe type receivers. Marvin Jones, a solid guy, big, kind of deep threat type guy. You have Antoine Bolden, the veteran underneath guy, and then Golden Tate that can go in the slot and kind of do it all. And when those 3 are both clicking, it's very tough to cover them through the air. Matt Stafford has a cannon when he's on. He can be inaccurate in times, and I think the Vikings has always almost had his number. We even covered Calvin Johnson pretty well when he was there, so I would say a good game for our secondary to really bounce back and show that they are the best defense in the league against Matt Stafford and the Lions. I think our corners match up very well on them. Rhodes on Marvin Jones will probably be a good matchup. We'll see Munnerlyn on Golden Tate. Then, of course, Newman would be on the last one. So we have all covered. Our defensive back depth is very deep. Safeties, I'm really interested to see if Sendejo will be healthy. As you see right here, I have been playing in my Madden clip for the game because I assume he will be. I think it was just a concussion, so I would assume he would be back 2 weeks after the injury. So that would be a big improvement on the end of our backfield. Defensive line, the big story of the season is, where is Sharif Floyd? I believe he played preseason game 1, but he hasn't played ever since. For the 23rd overall pick from a few years ago to not be playing, not being on the IR, it's very, very puzzling. How bad of an injury really is it? Will he play again this year? Why is he on the IR? Do the doctors not really know how bad it is? Is Sharif Floyd doing something wrong? So it's the whole problem there. I assume that it's just taking a lot longer than I first thought for the rehabilitation process. But hopefully, within a few more weeks, we'll see Sharif Floyd on the field. Tom Johnson and Shamar Stephen had filled in for him admirably, but filling in a 23rd overall pick, a Pro Bowl caliber defensive tackle, is always a plus when you already have a stellar defense. Then, of course, on the everywhere else, we have it pretty well stacked with Linval Joseph being one of the best nose tackles in the league, then Everson Griffin, Brian Robinson, and Danielle Hunter giving our pass rush on that edge a really good plus there. So the key to the game defensively, I would think, is get in Matthew Stafford's face, make him make erratic passes, and let our defensive backs make plays, and hopefully we can get a few turnovers in this game. I believe we only got one interception against the Bears, and that's Jay Cutler. So as far as our interceptions or turnovers will go, I gotta hope we'll have better numbers instead of against the Bears, but we just gotta wait to see. But I do think we'll have a very good matchup on the outside and shouldn't get beat too much. Now on the ground, the Lions have a very interesting situation there, as they have a few running backs that don't really have a good name for themselves. Abdullah was their high draft choice, I believe, last year, and he has a fumbling issue, so they don't run him a lot, but when he's there, he's pretty dangerous. And they have a few other guys that can get the job done and are kind of sneaky because there's not much film on them, and defenses don't quite know what to expect. But I think we should have a really good bounce back game where they're trying to make a statement for themselves that they can stop the run, and it should hold them for under 80 yards. So that's what I'm looking forward to defensively. Now offensively, it all comes down to the offensive line. Now the big story offensively coming today, actually, of this recording, is Norv Turner is no longer the offensive coordinator, as he resigned, and Pat Shurmur will be replacing him as the interim offensive coach. As far as just at the end of this week, how much will that change offensively? I don't think it'll change much of our base offense because we only have a few days to really get into Pat Shurmur style offense, but the play calling will be different, and it's interesting to see how different it'll be. Will he be the very predictable Norv Turner, run 90% of the time on first down, right up the middle? When you have Jerick McKinnon, he'll be very good going to the outside. Will he do slants and little screens to get the ball out of Sam Bradford's hands quickly? That's what I'm really hoping for, because we have guys like Cordell Patterson and Stephon Diggs that can make guys miss and make big plays out of this little hit routes that will get us positive yards and get us in second and shorts or third and mediums, so we don't have to worry about those long 3rd and 10s or 3rd and 12s when we can't run the ball at all. Run on first down, get negative 2 or 3 yards, and then we're in a hole. So if we can get an offensive line like that, it would be a lot better. Offensive line is the biggest story, of course. Who can step up at left tackle? Jake Long has proved that it was a bad choice to sign him. He's only been on the team for about 10 days, but it's not looking very promising for him. TJ Clemmings has looked even worse when he went to his natural position at right tackle, so it's very frustrating to see how bad they've been. It's really hard to say that there can't be a better improvement. Maybe Searles will get in the mix more, but he looked bad when he played a full game. He looked fine when he plugged in for about the last quarter after Smith first got hurt. But when he had to play a full game in the rotation against the Eagles, they look just as bad as everybody else. So we don't think we have a solution at the tackles unless we have a guy in the practice squad that we just signed that could possibly come in and play at a higher level. But it's going to take only time to decide that one. Interior line, I think Boone and Berger has been our only consistent lineman all year. Everybody else has looked lackluster, to say the least. Joe Berger, being a backup center for most of his career, has played at a Pro Bowl caliber position ever since last year when he filled in for John Sullivan, and been one of the best run blocking centers in the league. So even our O-line's bad, it's not the whole group. Berger still plays very well. Boone, being our big money signing of last offseason, has played okay, not quite as good as we signed him, but compared to Fusco or Clemmings, he's been exceptionally better than both of them. So you can't really blame on the big man, especially when he doesn't have much talent around him. Now the outside, I think we can make the corners of Detroit miss. I think Stefon Diggs, if we do a lot of short underneath things, he can make some plays. You see right here, Patterson was kind of my go-to in this game when I'm not getting flagged all the time. He got a nice wheel pass late in the game for about 50 yards, and that really led to my comeback here. And of course, Kyle Rudolph should continue to be Sam Bradford's third down target. Third and mediums, look for a lot of Kyle Rudolph. Now I'd like to see some of our other tight ends in the passing game, because Rhett Ellison can catch the ball, and the defenses tend to ignore him because he's more of a run blocking tight end. And I think little screens, little short passes to him on play action to get 6 to 8 yards is a very good and nifty play on first down. That's what I like to see. Running the ball, it's hard to think that we'll get much on the ground. Weirdly enough, the Bears actually have a better defense than Detroit, so we might be able to break 80. But that's about as far as I really see. If we get into the 90s, that's just about a limit of our whole team offense. I would really like to see more jet sweeps with Diggs or Patterson, because they're very explosive with the ball in their hand, and it'll just make the defense on the other team expect that a little bit more, so we can pound the ball down the middle when that's not the only running play we are actually doing. And now to get Bradford safety, I'd like to a little more bootlegs, just to get him away from the pass rush some, and a little more genius plays that way. I'd really like Kyle Rudolph involved in the passing game, but if we have to, keep the tight end in there to block, just so we can get guys like Diggs and Patterson and Thielen time to make their moves and get open. I would do that. Now, final score time. I think this is going to be a really tough one. I really do. With the way our team's been playing, we're going to come in strong and really want to bounce back. We're at home, so I'll give the Vikings a slight edge. I'll say final score, Minnesota 20, Detroit 17. That'll be a nail biter till the very end, but I think we'll pull this one out and finally get it the 6th win of the year. So that concludes the video. If you guys want to drop your final score predictions in the comments down below, and we'll see you guys in the next Vikings preview.